Now let's look at another category of an antimicrobial agent, and this is going to be it's going to be interferon, and this is a type of a cytokine. We didn't really talk too much about a cytokine previously, but a cytokine is a chemical that is produced by a cell that can adjust or affect other types of cells. Now, for this, a cytokine can be a means of communications between cells. It controls behavior and development of immune cells. It can regulate your inflammatory response, whether it is your innate or adaptive immunity. And it can even be part of destroying cells. So cytokines, think of it as a hormone. A chemical produces a chemical. A cell produces a chemical or substance, and it releases it, and it binds with a receptor, whether it's just on an adjacent tissue or something, and it binds with the receptor, and then it makes changes. So in that case, it acts like a hormone. So now let's take a look at interferon specifically and really what we are doing in this case. So interferon, there's actually three types of this. So there's going to be interferon alpha, interferon beta, and interferon, what's this gamma? That's a Y looking thing. That's a gamma. That's gamma. Good enough. Okay. So those are your three different types of chemicals, and this is going to be associated with cells that have been infected with a virus. Now, what we do is this, or it's also cancer cells, and this is what we can do. Let's look at this picture here briefly and kind of figure out what we're starting. So here on number one, we have an infected cell. So a cell has a virus in it, and basically at that point, once that virus gets into the cell, starts replicating, say goodnight, Gracie, because that cell's not going to live, okay? All that cell is doing is at that point is producing duplicates of the virus. And at that point, the cell basically says, hey, I'm going to die, but I'm going to tell all my friends, all my neighbors that I'm dying, but there's a plague out here, and this is what it is, so protect yourself. That's all it's doing. It's kind of a warning sign to its neighboring cells. So the infected cell starts synthesizing and producing interferon, the three different types of interferon, alpha, beta, and gamma. And interferon, the alpha and beta, will do a couple different things. One, it is released by the infected cell, and it goes to a healthy neighboring cell. And it enters the cell, and it basically tells the nucleus, the DNA in there, because that's where your protein stuff originates from, and it says, hey, we've got a problem out here in the neighborhood. Start making proteins that will prohibit RNA or DNA replication. Basically shut down your factories. Hey, just like COVID-19. We had a virus come in. We were warned. Okay, we saw a virus in China. We saw a virus going around. Donald Trump basically said, no. Shut it down. So in this case, the shutting down at the cell is we're telling the DNA to produce proteins to then no longer synthesize anything else coming on. Okay, so it's not going to get infected because a virus, the only thing it can do, it's not a cell itself. All it has is a strand of RNA basically, and it gets its way into the nucleus, merges with the DNA, and then it takes over the process. So if I was a factory and a factory is producing cars, everything for a healthy factory, that's great. Now here in come me, and I say, no, we're not going to make cars anymore. We're going to make ventilators. All right? That's kind of what happened. So it came in. I'm not saying the ventilator issue is a virus, but it came in and it says, you're no longer doing what you're supposed to do. You are now going to do what I want you to do. And in this case, I want you to make ventilators. Or here for a virus, I want you to make duplicates of me. And that's what's happening here. So in the healthy cell, it says, no, 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 no. We're going to board up the windows so you can't come in and take over the job. That's essentially what it is. Alpha and beta interferon also will stimulate the natural killer cell. And as you recall, the natural killer cells secrete perforin and granzymes. And so the natural killer cell will find an infected cell, release perforin, granzymes, and then that stimulates the cell death through apoptosis on that one. So that's going here. So remember perforin, what the function of perforin and granzymes are on this one. And the natural killer cell will release the gamma interferon, which stimulates a macrophage to become more active and then start going after these infected cells. So we have three different types of interferons: alpha, beta, gamma. Alpha, beta basically goes to a healthy cell, says, don't do any duplication of proteins. Now this is going to be a temporary thing because your cells got to do this in order to stay alive. Otherwise, there's no function of the cell. So those are your functions of this one. The next up is going to be, let's do complement on the next one.